10. St. Michan's Church, Dublin, Ireland. In the heart of Dublin, on Church Street, stands the medieval St. Michan's Church. Built in the 11th century, it is known less for its holy work and more for what lies beneath it. Down a narrow, winding stone stairway through large, chain metal doors, are a series of burial vaults that contain a truly bizarre phenomenon: mummified remains. The church's crypts have the unique property of preserving bodies from decay, and since Victorian times, they have become a macabre tourist attraction. Visitors are guided through the dark, damp crypts, where stacked coffins have collapsed under their own weight, revealing their leathery, mummified inhabitants. The crypt's most famous resident is the Crusader, an 800-year-old body, a giant of a man whose legs were broken and crossed to fit inside his coffin. Another notable mummy is the Thief, whose feet were said to have been cut off as a form of punishment. The atmosphere in the vaults is thick with the weight of centuries of death, and visitors have reported feeling a sense of dread and unease. The hauntings within St. Michan's are more of a creeping, subtle horror. Visitors often report hearing whispers around them, a chorus of voices from the past with no discernible source. Others have felt an icy breath on their neck or the unsettling feeling of being watched from the dark corners of the vaults. Some have even claimed to have been touched by unseen hands, a chilling encounter with the restless spirits of those who have been laid to rest here. It is a place that fascinated Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, whose family burial plot is located here. St. Michan's Church is a unique and unsettling destination, a place where the dead are not just buried but preserved, and a feeling of their presence lingers on the damp, cold air. 9. Greyfriars Kirk, Edinburgh, Scotland. Just beyond the quiet streets of Edinburgh's old town lies Greyfriars Kirkyard, a place of profound history and even deeper horror. The kirkyard, or churchyard, was established in the 16th century and is the final resting place for many of Scotland's most notable citizens. Its beautiful and ancient monuments are a stark contrast to its dark past, for this was the site of the Covenanters' prison, where over 1,200 Presbyterians were held in brutal conditions in 1679. Most of them starved or died of exposure, and their tormented spirits are said to still wander the grounds. But the true terror of Greyfriars is the Mackenzie poltergeist. George Mackenzie, a ruthless lawyer who earned the nickname Bluety Mackenzie for his brutal persecution of the Covenanters, was buried in the kirkyard's Black Mausoleum. In 1999, a homeless man seeking shelter broke into the mausoleum, accidentally releasing the spirit of the Bluety Mackenzie. Since that day, the poltergeist has become a documented and dangerous presence. Visitors have reported being scratched, bitten, and bruised by an invisible force. People have fainted, collapsed, and felt overwhelming feelings of dread and nausea inside the sealed Covenanters' prison. Tour guides and paranormal investigators alike have a treasure trove of documented incidents. In one chilling account, a woman was dragged by her hair from the mausoleum, leaving scratch marks on her skin. In another, a man felt his clothes violently tugged on by an unseen hand. The Mackenzie poltergeist is so infamous and aggressive that the Covenanters' prison is often closed to the public, accessible only through sanctioned ghost tours. It is a place where a vengeful spirit, fueled by centuries of anger and cruelty, continues its work, a chilling, intangible reminder that some people's malice lives on long after their bodies have turned to dust. 8. St. Mary's Church, Bungay, Suffolk, England. A sense of tranquility surrounds the ancient St. Mary's Church in the town of Bungay, Suffolk. But on a sweltering Sunday afternoon in 1577, its walls bore witness to one of the most terrifying and well-documented supernatural events in English history. The church, built in the 13th century, was a gathering place for the community. Its quiet history was a backdrop for a storm of biblical proportions that would forever tie it to a legend of pure evil. On August 4th, as a furious thunderstorm raged outside, the congregation knelt in prayer, seeking shelter from the lightning and deafening thunder. Suddenly, out of the darkness and sulphurous smoke, a monstrous black dog the size of a bear materialized in the nave. Its eyes glowed like fiery coals, and it moved with unholy speed, a phantom of pure terror. The beast, a demonic hound from hell, was said to have killed 2 people in the belfry before tearing through the panicked congregation. An old verse from the time recalls, "All down the church in midst of fire, the hellish monster flew, and passing onward to the choir, he many people slew." As suddenly as it appeared, the creature vanished, leaving behind the mangled bodies of its victims and a lingering scent of brimstone. The church tower was struck by lightning, and the clock was shattered, a physical mark of the beast's passage. This terrifying event, now famously known as the legend of the Black Dog of Bungay, gave rise to the enduring myth of Black Shuck, a spectral hound that haunts the coasts of Norfolk and Suffolk. While many today attribute the event to a lightning strike, the sheer terror of that day and the widespread belief in the satanic hound has ensured St. Mary's Church's place in the pantheon of the truly haunted. 7. St. Louis Cathedral, New Orleans, USA. In the heart of New Orleans, overlooking the bustling Jackson Square, stands the iconic St. Louis Cathedral. Its history is deeply rooted in the city's spiritual life, a beacon of faith that has stood since the early 18th century. The current structure, consecrated in 1850, is one of the oldest active cathedrals in the United States. Its grand arches and stained glass tell a story of piety and grace, but for those who know its secret history, the cathedral is a place where the line between the living and the dead is eerily thin. The most famous spectral residents are two former priests, Père Antoine and Père Dagobert. Père Antoine, a beloved Spanish friar who served for decades until his death in 1829, is the most commonly cited ghost. Visitors have seen his apparition on the cathedral's balcony and near the altar, especially during holidays, holding a candle. He is also said to haunt the alleyway named after him, humming church songs at dawn. Another ghost, the gentle Père Dagobert, is said to sing a haunting hymn, Kylie, on rainy mornings before his spirit walks down the cobblestones of Pirates Alley. But the most chilling encounter is with a third, more malevolent entity. The ghost of a priest who died by suicide in the rectory is said to haunt the cathedral's upper floor. His tormented spirit is reportedly the source of cold spots and feelings of intense despair. Visitors and staff have reported hearing the sounds of footsteps in the locked gallery above the main nave, and some have even claimed to have been physically pushed or grabbed by an unseen hand. The cathedral, a symbol of hope to many, is a poignant reminder of the enduring presence of those who once walked its hallowed halls, some still finding no peace in the afterlife. 6. At the Old Church of St. Mary's, Wirksworth, England. In the heart of Derbyshire, amidst the rolling hills of the Peak District, lies the historic town of Wirksworth, and at its center stands the magnificent Old Church of St. Mary's. While many churches on this list are known for their terrifying specters and chilling encounters, St. Mary's presents a different kind of haunting, a profound and tangible echo of history itself. The church's origins are ancient, with parts of the structure dating back to the Anglo-Saxon era. For over 1,000 years, it has stood as a witness to the lifeblood of this community, the brutal, dangerous, and often fatal lead mining industry. This is a church not haunted by a single ghost, but by the collective memory of generations of miners. The very stones here seem to tell their story, etched with the silent suffering and silent hope of those who toiled beneath the earth. The most famous symbol of this history is the Towed Man carving. Located in the miner's aisle, this strange and unsettling figure is a miner from the 16th century, holding a pickaxe and a basket, his face a silent testament to a life of hard labor and perpetual darkness. It is said that the miners would visit this carving before descending into the earth, seeking a blessing and offering a silent prayer for a safe return. Visitors to the church have often reported an overwhelming feeling of presence, not from a single apparition, but from the countless souls who once walked these floors and prayed for deliverance. You can almost hear the soft footsteps of the miners on the stone floor, their whispers on the cold air. The weight of centuries of prayer, hardship, and loss hangs heavy in the air. The old church is not just a building, it's a living monument to a forgotten way of life, haunted by the memory of every person who sought solace here. It is a place where the history itself is so tangible, so raw, that it doesn't need a single ghost to remind you that you are not alone. 5. St. Paul's Chapel, New York City, USA. Amidst the towering skyscrapers and hurried pace of modern Manhattan, a small, elegant Georgian church stands as a testament to history. St. Paul's Chapel, built in 1766, is the oldest surviving church building in New York City. Its history is truly remarkable, having survived the Great Fire of 1776 and, most famously, the collapse of the Twin Towers on September 11, suffering only minimal damage. But beyond its historical resilience lies a collection of spectral residents tied to its long past. The most prominent spirit is said to be that of George Washington, who famously attended the chapel after his inauguration. Visitors and staff have reported a cold spot in his personal pew and have claimed to see his faint, ghostly silhouette sitting there in quiet contemplation. But the most unsettling tale is that of the British actor George Frederick Cooke. After his death in 1812, he was buried in the church cemetery, having bizarrely donated his head to science. His ghost is said to wander the cemetery, eternally searching for his missing cranium. Many have reported seeing his apparition, a man in period clothing, gliding among the headstones with a pained look of confusion. In addition to these famous figures, the chapel is home to a phantom clergyman who whistles a high-pitched, tuneless tune as he walks the halls before fading into a wall. The wall he vanishes into is the exact spot where a small, concealed door was discovered during renovations. Perhaps the most poignant haunting of all is the quiet energy of those who were lost on September 11th. After the attacks, St. Paul's became a sanctuary for recovery workers, and many of them reported feeling a sense of peace and comfort from a protective, unseen presence, as if the church's spiritual fortitude was still at work, even in its most tragic moments. 4. St. Andrew's on the Red, Manitoba, Canada. Hidden among the aspen groves and rolling fields of Manitoba, Canada, stands the historic stone church of St. Andrew's on the Red. It is one of the oldest churches in Western Canada, its history deeply intertwined with the early settlers of the Red River Valley. Built in 1849, this beautiful Gothic revival structure served as a vital spiritual center for the community. Its picturesque graveyard holds the final resting places of many of the region's pioneers, and it is here, among the weathered tombstones, that the legends of the haunted church are most alive. The most chilling and well-known legend is of a ghostly figure, a specter of a man said to have been a minister or priest, who appears with glowing red eyes. Locals say that if you run around a specific tombstone in the cemetery backward 3 times at night, you will summon the terrifying apparition. A few brave souls have claimed to have seen the red-eyed figure, while others have simply felt an overwhelming sense of dread and being watched. There are also reports of a phantom horse-drawn carriage that makes its way down the winding road leading to the church. A more recent and less frightening encounter was described by a person with a spiritual gift, who attended an event at the church. They claimed to see and hear what felt like a whole other party taking place in the graveyard, the spirits of people from another time. They specifically mentioned seeing 2 flappers from the 1920s, a testament to the idea that the grounds are home to more than just a single malevolent force, but a collection of spirits, some perhaps still enjoying the music and revelry of their earthly lives. 3. Borgvattnet Church, Sweden. In the remote Swedish village of Borgvattnet stands a small church, unassuming and quaint, yet tied to a history of truly bizarre and terrifying hauntings. While the church itself has its share of spectral activity, the real heart of the haunting is the neighboring vicarage, which has earned the reputation as the ghost vicarage, and is often cited as Sweden's most haunted house. Built in 1876, the vicarage's tranquility was shattered in the 1920s when a string of priests began to report unsettling and unexplainable phenomena. The earliest documented incident occurred in 1927, when a priest, Reverend Nils Hedlund, reported seeing his laundry mysteriously pulled from the clothesline. 3 years later, his successor, Rudolf Tangden, encountered a phantom lady in gray in the Great Hall. However, it was Reverend Eric Lindgren's stay in 1945 that truly cemented the vicarage's terrifying reputation. On his very first night, he heard the sound of heavy furniture being dragged across the room above him, a sound he found impossible as his furniture had not yet arrived. His most famous encounter, however, was when he was violently pushed out of his rocking chair by an unseen force. Today, the vicarage operates as a bed and breakfast for daring visitors who want to test their courage. Guests consistently report feeling watched and seeing shadows and apparitions. One of the most famous recurring encounters is with a ghostly girl, who is said to haunt the Yellow Room. Legend holds that a pregnant, unmarried girl was locked in the room in the 19th century and died there. Visitors have reported hearing the cries of a baby and a woman's terrified screams, and feeling an icy cold hand brush against their arm in the dead of night. 2. St. Nicholas Church, Pluckley, England. Welcome to Pluckley, a place officially recognized as the most haunted village in England. And at its heart stands the picturesque parish church of St. Nicholas. The church itself, dating back to at least 1090, is a beautiful and serene structure, a testament to centuries of quiet faith. But its tranquil appearance belies the ghostly figures that wander its grounds, forever trapped by an unseen force. The churchyard in particular is a hotbed of paranormal activity, tied to a long and tragic history. The most famous of its ghostly residents is the Red Lady, a spirit with a heartbreaking tale. She is said to be the ghost of a Deering family matriarch, possibly Lady Christine Deering. Legend says she was so grief-stricken by the death of her infant child that she now forever haunts the churchyard, her presence marked by a faint red glow. She is often seen wandering among the tombstones, eternally searching for the grave of her lost baby. A woman in a Tudor dress and a Grey Lady have also been seen walking the church grounds, adding to the roster of apparitions. But the most chilling incident involves a former rector, Sir Edward Brett. As he was preparing to officiate a funeral, a thick, suffocating fog suddenly appeared, swirling around the graveyard. When the mist cleared, he saw a ghostly funeral procession led by a phantom horse-drawn carriage. The spectral group moved silently toward the church doors before vanishing into thin air. He was so shaken by the incident that he could not continue the service, and the parish clerk had to take over. This event, and countless other unexplainable sightings, have solidified St. Nicholas's place not just as a historical landmark, but as a gateway to the other side. 1. St. Mary's Church, Clophill, England. The whispers began long before the ruin. Perched on a hill overlooking the quiet village of Clophill, St. Mary's Church was built in the 14th century. But from the very start something was amiss. Unlike most holy places which face east toward the rising sun, St. Mary's faced the wrong direction, west. The villagers murmured that this small stone church was literally turning its back on God, a detail that many would later claim opened a doorway to something far more sinister. For centuries, it stood as a place of worship, its ancient walls absorbing the prayers of generations. But in the 1840s, a new parish church was built closer to the village center, and old St. Mary's was abandoned. It was this neglect that truly let the darkness in. The church became a shell, its windows shattered, its roof collapsing. In the 1960s, its infamy exploded. The ruins became a known site for black masses and satanic rituals. Graffiti was scrawled on the stone, bones from the graveyard were exhumed and arranged in circles, and rumors of gruesome sacrifices spread like wildfire. Police officers, paranormal investigators, and daring locals have all reported harrowing encounters. People have seen shadowy figures moving through the crumbling nave, and heard strange, inhuman chanting on the wind. Some have claimed to be physically assaulted by unseen forces, scratched, pushed, and even thrown to the ground. Visitors often report an overwhelming sense of dread, as if a malevolent presence is watching their every move. The church's infamous reputation is so ingrained in local lore that it is now known simply as the Black Magic Church, a place where a building meant for divine worship now serves as a horrifying monument to the darkness that can take root in abandoned stone.